Fear did not disappear when you chose faith. You may have expected it to. You thought believing in me would silence fear completely, that trust would replace trembling, that courage would arrive fully formed. But fear does not leave all at once. It follows, quietly, patiently, waiting for moments of uncertainty to remind you of its presence. And this confused you, because you believed that if fear still existed, then something must be wrong with your faith. But that belief was never true. There was a time you thought control meant safety. If you could anticipate every outcome, prepare for every possibility, hold tightly to every detail, then nothing could hurt you. That belief did not come from arrogance. It came from survival. You learned control because uncertainty once wounded you. You learned to manage everything because chaos once cost you too much. You learned to stay alert because relaxing felt dangerous. So you held on tightly, but holding on became heavy, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, it began to drain you. You were not resting. You were managing. You were not trusting. You were bracing. And I watched you grow tired, carrying weight you were never meant to bear. Letting go terrified you, not because you did not trust me, but because you did not know who you would be without control. Control had become part of your identity. The planner, the protector, the one who holds everything together. So when I asked you to release it, it felt like losing yourself. But listen to me now. You were not losing yourself. You were returning to yourself. Surrender is misunderstood. You thought surrender meant giving up. You thought it meant weakness, passivity, loss. But surrender is not collapse. Surrender is alignment. It is choosing to stop fighting battles you were never meant to win alone. There were moments I asked you to trust me without guarantees, to step forward without seeing the full path, to say no where you once said yes, to release people, plans, and expectations that no longer fit who you were becoming. And you resisted, not because you were disobedient, but because you were afraid of emptiness. You feared that if you let go, nothing would replace what you released. But I am not a God who creates emptiness without purpose. When I ask you to release something, it is because it no longer aligns with where I am leading you. Holding on would have delayed you. Control makes you feel productive, but surrender makes you effective. Because control relies on your strength. Surrender relies on mine. You noticed something strange when you finally loosened your grip. Life did not collapse. Things did not fall apart. In fact, some things became clearer. Decisions simplified. Relationships clarified. Your mind quieted. You stopped forcing outcomes, and outcomes began to shift on their own. This is how alignment works. When you stop pushing against my timing, you begin to move with it. When you stop insisting on your way, you discover a better one. Not easier, but truer. You are learning to ask a new question. Not, how do I make this happen? But, God, what are you already doing here? That question changes everything. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop controlling. It means you release the illusion that everything depends on you. And that illusion has been exhausting you for years. I never asked you to carry the future. I asked you to walk with me into it. There are doors opening now that would not have opened if you had stayed in control. Because control resists change, but surrender welcomes transformation. You are becoming more responsive instead of reactive, more discerning instead of anxious, more grounded instead of defensive. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. I know part of you still reaches back sometimes, wanting to reclaim certainty, wanting to guarantee outcomes. That is okay. Letting go is a practice, not a moment. Each time you release control again, you strengthen trust. Each time you surrender again, you deepen peace. You are not irresponsible for trusting me. You are not naive for releasing outcomes. You are wise for recognizing your limits. You will still plan. You will still prepare. But you will no longer panic when plans change. Because your confidence is no longer in structure. It is in me. And this is where freedom begins. Not when life becomes predictable, but when you realize you are safe even when it is not. In the next chapter, I will speak to you about identity, about who you are beneath survival, and about why you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. For now, rest in this truth. You did not lose control. You gained peace. And peace will take you farther than control ever could. Fear is not proof that you are failing. Fear is proof that you are moving forward into something unfamiliar. And unfamiliar territory always awakens resistance. You did not imagine the tension in your chest. You did not exaggerate the hesitation before decisions. Fear did speak, but fear did not rule. And that distinction matters more than you realize. There was a time when fear led you. It dictated your choices. It shaped your boundaries. It whispered warnings that sounded like wisdom. Do not try. Do not trust. Do not hope too much. You obeyed those warnings because they promised safety. But safety without growth becomes a cage. And I did not create you to live confined. Fear is persuasive. It does not shout commands. It asks questions. What if you fail? What if you are misunderstood? What if you are not enough? Fear presents itself as concern. But concern that leads to paralysis is not protection. It is control. You are learning something new now. You are learning to hear fear without obeying it. That is growth. Notice this carefully. Fear still appears, but it no longer decides. It walks behind you, not in front of you. It speaks, but you pause before responding. It warns, but you weigh its words. It predicts disaster, but you choose trust anyway. This is what freedom looks like in real life. Not the absence of fear, but the refusal to be led by it. There were moments when fear tried to reclaim authority, when old wounds reopened, when delays triggered uncertainty, when silence made fear louder. Fear told you to go back to what was familiar, even if it was unhealthy. But you did not return. You stayed. You waited. You trusted, even when your hands shook. This is courage, not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind, the kind that whispers, "I am afraid, but I am going anyway." Think of Peter stepping out onto the water. Fear was present. The waves did not disappear. The wind did not stop. But Peter stepped anyway. Fear did not disqualify him. Fear only revealed how much he needed me. And when fear overwhelmed him, I did not scold him. I reached for him. I do the same for you. Every time fear makes you hesitate, my hand is already extended, not to pull you backward, but to steady you as you move forward. Fear loses power when it is exposed, when you name it instead of hiding it, when you pray instead of pretending, when you bring it into my presence instead of letting it grow in isolation. Fear thrives in secrecy, but it weakens in truth. You have learned to pause, to breathe, to ask me before reacting. That pause has saved you from many regrets you will never know you avoided. Fear will continue to visit from time to time, but it will not make a home in you again, because you now know something you did not know before. Fear lies, not always loudly, but consistently. It exaggerates loss. It underestimates resilience. It forgets my faithfulness. You have survived every fearful moment that once felt unbearable. Every single one. And you did not survive them by being fearless. You survived them by trusting me through fear. There is a confidence forming in you now. Not confidence in outcomes, but confidence in me. You are no longer asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" You are asking, "If it does, will God still be with me?" And the answer is yes. Always yes. That knowledge changes everything. It loosens fear's grip. It weakens fear's authority. It turns fear from a master into a signal, a reminder to lean into me. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are learning to walk with fear present and faith leading. In the next chapter, I will speak to you about control, about why you had to let go, and about how surrender is not loss but alignment. For now, let this truth settle. Fear may follow you, but it no longer defines your direction. I do. For a long time, you lived as if you had something to prove. Not always out loud, not always intentionally, but quietly, in how hard you worked, in how much you carried, in how often you explained yourself. You told yourself you were just being responsible, just being disciplined, just doing what needed to be done. But beneath that effort, there was a question you rarely admitted. Am I enough? You learned early that approval felt like safety. When people were pleased, you relaxed. When they were disappointed, you questioned yourself. So you adapted. You became what was needed. You adjusted your tone. You softened your truth. You took on more than your share, just to keep the peace. And slowly, without realizing it, survival replaced identity. Let me speak to the part of you that is tired of performing. You were never created to earn your value. You were created from value. Before you achieved anything, before you fixed anything, Before you became useful to anyone, I knew you, and I called you good. You have mistaken responsibility for identity. You thought being needed made you valuable. You thought being strong made you worthy. You thought being reliable made you lovable. But those things describe what you do, not who you are. And when you confuse function with identity, exhaustion is inevitable. You are learning now to separate who you are from what you produce. And that is unsettling, because without productivity, without validation, without effort, you were left with yourself. And that scared you for a long time. But look at you now. You no longer chase approval the way you used to. You no longer panic when misunderstood. You no longer explain yourself to people committed to misreading you. You acquired it, not withdrawn, anchored. Identity rooted in me does not need defense. It does not need comparison. It does not need constant affirmation. It stands even when unrecognized. There was a time when criticism shattered you. You replayed it, analyzed it, internalized it. Now, you listen, discern, and release. Not because criticism disappeared, but because it no longer defines you. This is growth. This is freedom. I see how you are learning to say no without guilt. How you are choosing alignment over approval. How you are walking away from roles that drained you, even when they once validated you. That is not selfishness. That is clarity. You are discovering who you are beneath survival strategies, beneath hypervigilance, beneath over-responsibility, beneath the need to be everything for everyone. And what you are finding there is not weakness. It is peace. I did not create you to compete. I did not create you to prove. I did not create you to perform. I created you to be, to live rooted, to move with purpose, to love without fear of abandonment. You do not need to convince me of anything. I already know your heart. I know your intentions, even when your execution is imperfect. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a person to be loved. You have begun to trust that, and it shows in how you speak more honestly, in how you rest more deeply, in how you stop forcing yourself into spaces that no longer fit. You are not shrinking. You are aligning. There will still be moments when old patterns try to return, when you feel the urge to over-explain, to over-give, to over-function. When that happens, pause and remember, you do not need to prove your worth. You carry it. Your identity is not fragile. It does not crack under pressure. It does not disappear in silence. It does not fade when unseen, because it is anchored in me. In the next chapter, I will speak to you about rest, about why you are allowed to slow down, and about how peace becomes your strength, not your weakness. For now, let this truth settle gently. You are not who you had to become to survive. You are who I have been calling you to remember, and that is more than enough. You are held, and this is where you rest. You do not need another revelation. You do not need another explanation. You do not need to understand everything before you rest. You need permission. So let me give it to you now. You were allowed to stop striving. For so long, you lived as if peace was something you had to earn, as if rest would come after everything was resolved, after every problem was fixed, after every fear was silenced, after every loose end was tied. But peace was never meant to be the reward at the end of your strength. Peace was meant to be the place from which you live. Look at how far you have come, not in achievements, not in visible success, but in who you are now. You listen more than you react. You pause instead of panic. You trust without demanding proof. These are not small changes. They are signs of a heart that has learned to rest in me. You once believed that if you stopped moving, everything would collapse. But you stopped, and nothing collapsed. Instead, things realigned. Your breath softened. Your thoughts slowed. Your soul found its footing again. Because I was never asking you to hold the world together. I was holding you. You no longer need to scan the horizon for danger. You no longer need to prepare for every possible loss. You are not careless. You are covered. There will still be challenges ahead. This is not the end of your story, but it is the end of the season where fear defined the tone of your life. You are stepping into a quieter strength now, one that does not rush, one that does not prove, one that does not harden, a strength that trusts me to stand watch while you sleep. You have learned that my presence does not leave when emotions fluctuate. You have learned that silence does not mean abandonment. You have learned that waiting does not mean you are forgotten. And most importantly, you have learned that you are deeply, securely, permanently held. There is nothing you need to add to this moment. No vow to make. No promise to perform better. No pressure to become someone else. Just stay. Stay in this awareness. Stay in this breath. Stay in the truth that you are not walking alone. Let the noise of the world fade for a moment. Let expectations loosen the grip. Let the need to rush quiet down. I am here. I will guide you when it is time to move. I will speak when it is time to decide. I will intervene when protection is needed. And when nothing seems to happen, I will still be here. You do not need to fear the future. You do not need to rehearse failure. You do not need to relive the past. Your life is not fragile in my hands. It is safe. So now, rest. Not because everything is finished, but because you trust the one who is not finished with you. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not lacking. You are exactly where you need to be. And you are deeply loved. Remain here as long as you need. Return whenever you feel weary. I will always meet you, because I am your shepherd, and nothing that matters to you escapes my care. There are wounds that come from enemies, and then there are wounds that come from people you loved. The second kind cuts deeper, not because it hurts more, but because you never expected it. You expected loyalty. You expected understanding. You expected support, especially when you were already tired. Instead, you were met with distance, silence, misunderstanding, sometimes even rejection, and you wondered what you did wrong. Let me speak to you clearly now, before you turn inward and accuse yourself of what was never your fault. Not everyone who walks with you can walk where you are going. This is one of the hardest truths you will learn, not because it is cruel, but because it is necessary. Some people are assigned to a season, not a destiny. Some are meant to walk beside you until a certain point, not forever. And when that point is reached, separation feels like betrayal, even when it is not. I know how confusing that feels. You prayed together. You shared history. You carried each other through difficult days. So when distance appeared, it felt unnatural, like something had broken. But sometimes, nothing breaks. Sometimes, something simply ends because it has fulfilled its purpose. You have blamed yourself for too long, replaying conversations, reconsidering decisions, wondering if you changed too much or not enough. Listen to me. You did not lose people because you became worse. You lost some because you grew. And growth always rearranges relationships. When you begin to walk with greater clarity, some people feel exposed. When you stop compromising, some feel judged, even if you never judged them. When you choose peace over chaos, some feel abandoned because chaos was the only language they knew. This is painful, but it is not wrong. You are not required to shrink so others can stay comfortable. Think about Joseph again. His brothers did not hate him because he was cruel. They hated him because they could sense destiny, and it threatened their insecurity. They did not attack him openly at first. They mocked him, dismissed him, told him to be quiet about his dreams. And when that did not work, they removed him. Joseph did not lose his brothers because he was arrogant. He lost them because they could not walk where his calling was taking him. Some of the people who walked away from you were never meant to see what I am about to do in your life. Not because they are evil, but because they would not have understood it. If they stayed, they would have questioned every step. If they stayed, they would have diluted your courage. If they stayed, they would have required explanations I never asked you to give. So I allowed distance, not as punishment, but as protection. I know it hurt. I know there were nights you wondered why the very people who knew your heart could not see your sincerity. I know you expected support and received suspicion instead. But understand this. When I prepare you for something greater, I reduce the number of voices that influence you. Too many voices confuse direction. Too many opinions weaken obedience. Sir, I simplify, not to isolate you, but to focus you. Some relationships end quietly. No argument, no explanation, just drift. And that kind of ending is the hardest, because there is no closure, only questions. But not every ending requires explanation. Some endings are simply confirmations that a chapter has closed. You have learned something valuable through this loss. You have learned not to build your identity on proximity to others. You have learned not to depend on affirmation to feel secure. You have learned that my presence is not supplemented by human approval. These lessons cost you something, but they strengthened you. Do not resent those who could not follow you. They are not your enemies. They are simply not assigned to your next season, and forcing them to stay would have damaged both of you. There are also betrayals that were real, words twisted, trust broken, secrets exposed. You did not imagine those either, and I am not asking you to pretend they did not hurt. But I am asking you not to let bitterness build a home in your heart, because bitterness does not protect you. It poisons you. Forgiveness is not agreement. Forgiveness is release. You release them from the role you expected him to play. You release yourself from carrying their failure, and you move forward lighter, not because the past did not matter, but because it no longer controls you. David understood this deeply. Saul was not a stranger. He was a leader David honored, a man David served, a king David protected, and yet Saul hunted him, not because David was disloyal, but because David was anointed. David had opportunities to retaliate. He could have justified it. He could have ended the pain quickly, but he chose to wait, not because Saul deserved mercy, but because David trusted me more than revenge. Waiting does not mean weakness. It means you trust me to settle what you could destroy, but choose not to. And I honor that trust. There will be people who misunderstand your silence. They will assume guilt where there is restraint. They will project motives you never carried. They will speak about you without knowing your heart. Let them talk. I am not building your future on their opinion. I am building it on my promise. Do not chase clarity from people who have already decided not to understand you. You will exhaust yourself trying to explain what only obedience can justify. Let me defend you. I do not need your help to tell the truth. This season of separation, here, I remind you that you were never sustained by people alone. You were sustained by me. And I promise you this: I will not leave you alone. When the time is right, I will bring people into your life who recognize you without competing with you. People who celebrate your growth instead of resenting it. People who walk beside you without trying to control you. People who understand your silence because they respect your depth. But first, you must let go of those who cannot go further. Do not rush to replace what was lost. Absence creates space, and space is where new alignment begins. In the next chapter, I will speak to you about strength you did not know you had, about why you survived what should have broken you, and about how courage is formed quietly, not dramatically. For now, breathe. You did not lose everything. You lost what could not follow you into what is coming. And that is not loss. That is preparation. The strength you did not know you were carrying. There were moments you should not have survived. Moments that, by every human measure, should have broken you completely. And yet, you were still here. Not untouched, not unchanged, but standing. You have often wondered why. Why others collapsed under similar weight while you kept moving. Why despair knocked so loudly at your door but never fully claimed you. Why you bent but did not shatter. Let me tell you the truth you have underestimated for too long. You did not survive because you were stronger than everyone else. You survived because I was holding you when your own strength ran out. There is a kind of strength that does not announce itself. It does not feel powerful. It does not feel heroic. It does not even feel brave. It feels like waking up when you would rather disappear, like choosing kindness when bitterness would be easier, like continuing to pray when your words feel empty. That is not weakness. That is endurance shaped by faith. You believed courage would feel loud, like confidence, like certainty, like bold declarations with no fear underneath. But real courage feels quiet. It feels like trembling hands that still refuse to let go. It feels like tears that fall without permission, but do not define your direction. It feels like doubt that speaks, but does not get the final word. You have been courageous far more often than you realize. Think back. There were days you carried responsibilities that were never meant for one person alone. Days when others depended on you while you were barely holding yourself together. Days when quitting would have been understandable, but you stayed. Not because you felt strong, but because something inside you would not allow you to abandon hope completely. That something was me. I have been depositing strength into you quietly, not in moments of victory, but in moments of surrender. Not when you felt confident, but when you felt empty. Not when you were applauded, but when you were unseen. Every time you chose not to harden your heart, I strengthened you. Every time you forgave when you wanted to withdraw, I fortified you. Every time you trusted me without evidence, I anchored you deeper. You are stronger now than you were when this journey began. Even if you do not feel it yet. You measure strength by what you can carry. I measure strength by what you no longer need to. You no longer need constant approval. You no longer need every answer immediately. You no longer need to prove your worth to those who misunderstand you. That is strength. There were moments when fear told you to stop dreaming, to lower your expectations, to protect yourself by expecting less. And you listened for a while. But notice this. Even when you tried to bury your hope, it did not die. It waited. Because hope planted by me does not disappear under pressure. It adapts. You think courage is charging forward without fear. But courage is choosing to move forward with fear present. Fear does not disqualify you. Stopping does. And you did not stop. I know there were nights you lay awake, replaying conversations, worrying about outcomes, imagining futures that never arrived. I know anxiety visited your thoughts like an unwanted guest. But anxiety did not own you. It knocked, but it did not move in. Because beneath your worry, there was trust. Not perfect trust, but real trust. The kind that keeps you breathing. The kind that keeps you praying. The kind that keeps you reaching for light even when darkness feels close. Do you see it now? You were never weak. You were becoming. I have watched you choose restraint instead of reaction. You wanted to defend yourself, but you waited. You wanted to explain, but you stayed silent. You wanted to retaliate, but you walked away. Those moments did not feel victorious. They felt unfair, but they trained you. They taught you self-control. They taught you discernment. They taught you how to let me fight battles you were never meant to win alone. Strength is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of direction. And even in confusion, you kept moving toward me. There is a reason I did not remove every hardship quickly. If I had, you would have mistaken comfort for calling. You would have settled too soon. You would have avoided growth. You would have stayed dependent on circumstances instead of me. So I allowed resistance, not to hurt you, but to awaken you. Every challenge sharpens something inside you. Your discernment, your empathy, your patience, your depth. You now notice what others overlook. You now feel what others ignore. You now speak with wisdom shaped by experience, not theory. This is strength that cannot be taught. It must be lived. You have learned when to rest. And that matters more than you think. You are no longer addicted to urgency. You no longer confuse exhaustion with productivity. You no longer feel guilty for pausing. You have learned that rest is not quitting. It is trusting. The courage forming in you is not aggressive. It is grounded. It does not need to dominate. It does not need to impress. It does not need to prove itself. It simply stands. Soon, you will face moments that once would have overwhelmed you. And you will notice something different. Your breathing will stay steady. Your mind will remain clear. Your heart will not panic. Not because the situation is easier, but because you are stronger. I am not finished strengthening you, but I am proud of how far you have come. Yes, I am proud, not of perfection, not of achievement, but of persistence. In the next chapter, I will speak to you about fear, about why it keeps returning, and about how to walk forward even when it tries to follow you. For now, let this truth settle in you. You are not barely surviving. You are being forged, and the strength you carry now will soon support others who are still learning how to stand. Rest in that. You are becoming exactly who you need to be.